afternoon. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. If you're on live, hello. I have a great card to show you, and I'm going to switch straight over to my cradle so that you guys can see the card. And I'm going to go through step by step how to make it. It's using one of my favorite new stamp sets, new bundles, that's in the mini catalogue, the new mini catalogue, which came out a couple of weeks ago. And it's called Queen Bee, and it has a bundle together with the stamps and also the dies that you can use in multiple different ways. So I'm going to switch it around. I want to show you all the detail, all the beautiful detail on this card before I make it for you. Just, so that you can get an idea about where I'm going with my video today. Say hello if you've just joined us. Otherwise, if you're catching the replay, you can say hello a little bit later on as you're watching the post that comes up on my Facebook page. So here's the card. It's actually, there's a lot happening on this card, so that's why, I wanted to get straight into it to show you guys how I made it. I'm going to hold it up a little bit closer so you can see there's some embossing of two different powders, actually gold and black for the word beloved. There's some of that gorgeous paper which you'll find in the new Sale-A-Bration catalogue, and that has been super popular. That's the Favoured Flowers. So I'm using the Favoured Flowers Designer Series paper, which is a free item that you can claim with every $90 order at the moment, only during Sale-A-Bration. So that's my paper, but I'm also using some of the, I think it's called Glimmer Shimmer paper. I'm just trying to remember what it's called in the back of the catalogue. It's one of our specialty papers, and it's got a pearlized effect on it. So you will, pearlescent 12 by 12, that's it. Pearlescent 12 by 12. So it does have a little bit of a shimmer, but it's more of a pearly finish, and I don't know if you can see it just catching the light with my bee wings there. There's a bit of a shadow. Let me just move my light so we can see a bit better. Beautiful. I've also used it for the two flowers. So when you're stamping on this, you will need to emboss your image, whatever image you are using, because the pearlized paper doesn't actually it doesn't actually stamp very well with our classic inks. So just remember that when you're using it yourself at home. There's also a little bit of gold embossing around the edges, and I want to show you how to get that around the edge of your bee, but also around the edge of this inner frame piece. And there's a few other little elements there that I'll add as we go through. So if you are ready, I'm going to get started. I have just a very vanilla card base, which I've cut. It's half an A4, and it's been scored in the middle, so it's just a normal sized card front. And this is the other side of the paper, so I'm going to put my glue on the underside, which it is, I think it's petal pink, this colour. Trying to remember, it's the one of the warm pinks, and it also gets picked up in these gorgeous, I think they're roses. There's roses and dahlias in this paper. Isn't it beautiful? It's really hard to know which side to use, but I like to use a combination of both sides, so you get to see both sides of the paper on this card. So that will be my largest piece. And before I stick this down, we're going to do a couple of things to it. The first thing I am going to do is run my Versamark pad around the very edge. So I'm just going to swipe it in just from the edge like that, just to catch a little bit of the Versamark only on the very edge of my cardstock. You'll start to see it discolor or go a bit darker than the rest of the paper. And that's how you know you've got enough on there. And then what I'm going to do is just dip the ends of this, the very edges, into my gold powder that I've got sitting here. And I'm going to give it a flick on the back just to get the excess off. And you'll see, if I hold it up, you'll see how it's kind of just scattered really roughly around the very edge of that piece of designer series paper. I'm going to bring in my heat tool. Keep spinning it around until all that powder is melted. Yeah, I love it when you get that sort of pop and shine off that powder. So you can see now that that's melted, and it's just given a really nice sort of gilded edge to my designer series paper. I'm really happy with that. Now I've also got a stamp here which comes from the Queen Bee stamp set, and you'll see it's got a combination of the bee images, some beautiful greetings. It's very vintage, very eclectic. There's this really cool, almost like a background stamp, I guess. It's got some splotches, but it's also got words. So I'm going to use this in the background with some Calypso Coral ink. And I'll just ink that up, but I won't ink it up again. I'm just going to keep stamping that until I run out of ink. There. Might just ink that up again like that. There we go. So you're just going to stamp that a couple of times randomly. Hi Deb. In the background. So see how that gives that really nice vintage look. If you don't re-ink your stamp in between, then your stamp kind of fades off into the background, which is really nice. It's one of my favorite techniques, that one. Alrighty, so now we are going to do some more embossing. While I've got my heat tool out, I may as well do my flowers and also my beloved, which is the plain bee. I might cut that first actually. So I'm going to do my little flower. So here's the little flower, which also comes from this stamp set. It's really sweet. That's actually really nice to watercolor. I'm going to grab my blender pen, or no, I actually might grab my Calypso Coral marker while I'm here, and I might color them in after I've embossed them. So I'm just going to use a little bit of my embossing buddy just to take the static off those two pearlescent paper squares, and I'm using my Versamark again and just going into the middle of those two, and I'll get some gold powder on each of those. The good thing about this paper too is that the Versamark doesn't dry too quickly on there either. So you can actually, yes, you've got time to get your powder on there. Right, so if I can do this without burning my fingers, I forgot to bring my tweezers over. I'll do one side and then I'll do the other. There we go. So they're ready to cut out. Before I do, I'm just going to colour them. You could use a blender pen and your Calypso Coral ink pad, but I've got my Calypso Coral Stampin' Write marker here, so I might just use that to colour in. It always works better when you have embossed first. I'm going to leave the centre white because I like that look. You could just colour one flower in, or you could colour both. I think on my original I only coloured, hi Kath, how you going? Good to see you. I only coloured one flower on this one and I used my blender pen with the ink pad, but I'm going to colour both on the one that I'm making for you guys today. Alrighty, so I think I am ready to do some cutting. And then I'll just need to do a little bit more embossing before I put everything together. So I've got all my dies here. The dies are just gorgeous, and you will find, I'll just get the whole thing so that you can see, but there's dies that cut around the B shape, so dies that will cut around this. There's a die, I think there's a die that cuts out the flowers. Let me just have a little look. I've only got the ones out that I'm using for this card. So let's just have a little look in here. Yes, there is. Okay, so here we go. So here's the other dies, which you won't see. You've got, these ones I will need. I'm going to grab those. But that's an outline for the spray of flowers. There's a little crown outline. There's a nice little word window which has some stitching. That's going to be very handy, not just for using with this set. There's also some beautiful flowers in there which look like they emboss as well, you can see. So you can add a few more flowers. There's also one for the bee, the flying bee. So it's a beautiful set. If you haven't got it on your wish list, you might want to put it on your wish list after today. It was one of the first things that I wanted to get. All right, so I have here some bits of paper. I'm going to cut a whole bee out of this one. So I'm just going to place that so that he's capturing most of those flowers. This paper is so beautiful. And I've also got a black piece, which I'm going to cut a little black bee out of. We're only using the wings of him, actually. Then there's some more of the pearlescent paper. I've got some wings here, which I'll cut out. And there is also, what else is there? Oh, and there's also another one of these, so I need to just get a little tiny bit more of the pearlescent paper, but that's okay. So we'll do these one at a time. This is the flower that's going to cut around my embossed flower. You can see that there. And there are my wings all ready to go. They look like gossamer wings when you, when you cut them out of this pearl paper. They really do look beautiful against almost any background. So let's just roll that through and out the other side. There we go. Nice, okay. And we've got the other, there's my bee. And my little black bee, I'll get him out in a second. So look at those wings, how gorgeous are they? Oh, I love them. And all those little bits come out so you can see all those details. And once you're ready to pop them on your project, I'll show you how to change the size of them. You don't have to stick with the same size that you are given. I'm just going to grab another little tiny bit of this paper. Here we go. So this is the solid bee, and you're going to pop that on there as well. And I'll just pop the plate that goes over the top and run it through, back the other way. So much quicker than cutting things by hand, and especially if you've got a die set that matches a stamp set, it just makes the whole process quicker and easier. Quicker and easier to create. Okay, here we go. And I need another plain bee just for the middle of my center piece. That's going to have the word beloved stamped on it, and I will emboss that in black. I think I'm going to go and get my my tweezers. I know exactly where they are because this is a really tiny bit. There's also going to be some embossing around the edge of that, so I'm going to put some more details on this little guy here. You'll see what I mean in a second. Alrighty, here we go. I'm just getting rid of a few extra bits here, and I'll get my tweezers while I'm thinking of that, and my take your pick tool. So I'll pop the card back so you guys can see where we're headed if you've just joined us. Say hello, and I'll just be back with my tweezers just a second. Right, so you can see that beloved, that word, that's actually the greeting on our card, if you like. You can see how that's got quite a bit of detail on there. You've got some gold embossing around the edge. The word is embossed, but there's also a little bit of stamping. So the first thing I'm going to do is use that beautiful background stamp again, the one with the words. And I'm just going to ink it up and stamp off just to get rid of some of that ink, and then stamp it once on there just to take the plainness off there. You can just see those words, just make them out. I love stamps like that you can change an embellishment, completely transform a background on a card or even a scrapbook page if you're scrapping your photos. Alrighty. So we have the word beloved. I will just use a little bit of my buddy again because I'm going to add a word, an embossed word, in the middle of that B, and I want it to be fairly well centered, so I'm just going to line that up. Does that look beloved? I'm going to go on the other side. Good thing about our cardstock is it's the same color on each side. I'm going to just do that one again. Oops. With my background, first of all. There it is. There we go. All right, so there's my background, and I think I just needed to stamp it a little bit down. So I'll buddy it, and I think this will be in a better spot. Yep. All right, so let's get this in some black. I've got my black powder, and really all you need to do is dip this little guy straight in your powder, and hopefully that has, yeah, there we go. You can see that word, beloved. Love it, gorgeous. This could be a Valentine's Day card if you want to get organized for February 14. This would be a lovely Valentine's card. Okay, so I've embossed that, but then what I'm going to do is the same thing I did with that surround. Is I'm just going to dip it into, sort of swipe my Versamark pad around the edge. There we go. You can see that's taken because it's a little bit darker. And then I'm going to dip it into the gold, just on the very edges. So you don't want it to cover the word. You want to still be able to see the word. But that's going to give it a really nice sort of gilded look to it as well. So it's all going to be matching. Let's just give that a squirt. You see why I needed my tweezers for this bit. You can see that's coming up nice and shiny now. It's looking good. Oh, I love that. You could make a couple of those. And yeah, as I said, you could use that as an embellishment on a scrapbook page. Or a different card to what I'm making, but I really like that look. I think it's gorgeous. It's kind of a little bit stiffer now that it's got all that embossing on there too, so it'll sit really well on the card. Okay, think I'm almost up to assembly. I'm going to poke this little guy out just using my take your pick tool. So when you've got your cardstock still stuck in the die, what you want to do is just poke it out using the little holes on the other side, and then poke out those little black bits that are in there, and you'll get that lovely detail. So I'm going to show you what I'll do with that. That's going to be overlaying the solid pearly bee. How cute is he? Love that. I might just put them together now so I don't lose them. Always a good idea. I'm just going to get a glue dot, and I'll put one just behind his head and one just on his bee bottom. Do bees have bottoms? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. They'd be very cute if they did. Okay, so there you go. That's just stuck those two together. And as you're assembling the card, you can bend up wings and make them look even more 3D as you're assembling. So I'm going to put those to the side. Alrighty, let's bring in this bit again, which I've already started. I've obviously done the background part, I've done the embossing, and it's all looking quite pretty. I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm going to do is stamp the large bee, and I'll put that diagonally. If your stamps don't fit acrossways, you can still put them on your blocks and see exactly where you're stamping, whether they're straight or not. Just put it on an angle so that the wingspan will fit across that way, if it's not going to fit across that way. And I'm going to use my Memento ink pad to just stamp a plain black bee, and he's going to be down the bottom, the very bottom of my card. So using everything that I've got to line that up. I'm using my scrap paper, but it's good that you can see right through these blocks. Now look at the detail in that stamp. Isn't that gorgeous? I love that. That's just stamping it in plain black. It is so pretty. And then of course we've got our layers. So I'm going to use another couple of glue dots, maybe just one. And I'm going to put that in the middle, just where the heart is. I'm just going to place that right in the middle, and then one of these flowers is going to go over the top, and I use a mini dimensional. So I've got my sheet of mini dimensionals here, and that's just going to go straight over the top like that. So you've got yes, you've got a bee. We've got the wings, and you've got the flower going in the middle. That's looking really pretty. Isn't that lovely with the colour in the middle there? And for the middle butterfly, or sorry, bee wings, they're just wings by themselves. There's no bee body as such, although we have a bee body in the word that's kind of going to look yeah, it's going to look appropriate. I'm going to get some of these little bits out so that they aren't stuck in there when we apply these wings. Now for my original card, I will tell you that I actually cut these wings into and brought them together a little bit. You can do that. I'm just realizing now that there's probably no need to do that. And if I assemble this just as is, it's going to work as well. So yeah, but don't be afraid to cut the wings down. You can cut them in half and then move them closer together, just so that they're not as sort of far apart as these ones. But I actually think that looks quite good. What I'm going to do is put a glue dot on the back of both of those, like that, and then I'm going to tie our gold thread just in a bow. So this comes from the Elegant Trim, and it's got silver and gold in the packet, so got lots of good variety there. And let me see if I can grab some scissors, cut that, and yes, that's going to just sit on my card, just so that the tails of the bow are facing down. Just adjust it as you need to. And I'm going to pop my glue dot over the knot of the bow. And then another glue dot on the back is going to secure that. You really only need one glue dot because these glue dots are so strong. I'm going to put this fairly towards the bottom B because I want to have plenty of room for the B at the top. So this guy is just a plain shape. We've already cut the B out of some of that gorgeous Sale-A-Bration Designer Series paper. And I'm going to just glue this straight down. So I'm going to put glue straight on the back like that. This is really simple because all of the pattern, everything that's happening is actually in that paper. And you can see how beautiful that looks. You can still see the shape of the bee. And this one is really simple. Again, I've got my extra flower and I'm going to grab one of these dimensionals on the back, pop it on the back and peel off the backing, and then just apply that to the middle. And that's it. Oh, that looks gorgeous. I'm really happy with that. So that is ready to go on my card. And if I find my card base, you guys will see how this is going to look. So there's my stamped and embossed piece with all of that lovely detail. So a lot of these techniques you can use with other stamps. And this card really combines a lot of my favourite vintage style techniques for card making. And I think this bee set really does lend itself to this style. I think it's definitely made for vintage cards. So that's just right in the middle there. And if I bring in my original card again, you'll see they're very similar. And yeah, I've got a Valentine's Day card, and one of them could also be a wedding card. I was just thinking that as well, or an engagement card, or just thinking of you, card. I really love those. I hope you guys, I know the bee is just beautiful, especially this detailed stamp. That is just stunning. I can't wait to play with that a little bit more. I'm thinking you could emboss that and colour in, just like I've done with these little flowers. You could colour in the bee in whatever colours you want with your Stampin' Blends or even your Stampin' Write markers. It would look really nice, or some watercolour. I'm sure I will be playing with that stamp in particular a little bit more. I hope you guys enjoyed this afternoon's video. As I said, I will post this directly to my page so that you guys can catch it later if you didn't join us live. Thanks so much for watching and for your comments. It's really nice to know that there's someone out there that's actually watching me do what I love to do. So thank you for watching me make these cards, or this card today, and I hope you guys have a great Saturday. See you later. Bye.